bison, more than any other animal or bird, is a unique symbol of the great strength and determination of the people of North America. One man who has found a unique use of bison is top cutting horse trainer and competitor Tim Fraser. Tim has a degree in livestock technology with experience in both purebred and commercial cattle. Tim has been using buffalo in the training of cutting and reining cow horses for over 5 years.
Well, I don't think I've ever been around anyone that has studied the buffalo the way Tim has, and how to break them in and get them started to where they respect your horse, and to keep them. Buffalo are a little wild when they first come in, and after Tim has them here a few days, you can have them to where they'll stop and look at your horse, and each buffalo is almost programmed to do what he wants to. He talks the language.
The purpose of this video is to help you successfully use buffalo in your program by demonstrating the breaking and training process necessary to make them an effective training aid. We'll also talk about care of the buffalo, vet concerns, feeding, and as well as providing a direct link between you and the National Bison Association to help you with buying calves and marketing buffalo when you're done with them. If you'll follow the direction in this tape, you'll find them to be a big asset in your program. One thing I'd like to talk about a little bit is when you first get your buffalo calves, how to kind of handle them when they're fresh and a little wild when you're getting them out of the pen. Buffalo get real nervous when they're in a confinement and you press them hard. In other words, don't give them any room to escape. So I always ride down one side of the pen, never more than one person or one horse in the pen with them when I'm getting them out, so that they don't get scared and hurt themselves. And I'll just ride down here on the left, and they'll release to the right, and they'll just file out of here. Once they start moving, just stand still, and they'll keep on going. Just like cattle, if you can keep them quiet, it's better. You can see how once they start moving, they really start moving. Okay, the first step in the breaking process on these calves is to get them to look at a horse. I do this, I've had a lot of really good luck doing this. On the first day, I just put them in the arena and I just work horses around them. They find the middle of the arena that way. Anytime I can train my cattle or my buffalo to the middle of the arena, I think I'm doing a good thing. And then they look at the horse when they're relaxed. That is the number one thing that you want, to get them to look at the horse. That encourages them to turn into the horse and actually work the horse instead of running the pen. I've got my wife on another horse, and we'll just split this pen and we'll stay opposite of each other, and we'll just start riding around them. And if they want to scatter and run around, bounce off the walls, you just kind of let them and just keep walking around them. You can see that they're a little nervous. This is also a good way to introduce a horse to buffalo. They get a chance to look at them a little bit. Very, very few horses show any reluctance to work a buffalo. Those that do, I find, are also a little reluctant on cattle. Any horse that I've ever had that did not want to hook onto a buffalo, it didn't take any more than 2 times working a buffalo with them to get them over that, and then they work them just like cattle. I think this is a good thing to do with buffalo for another reason as well. After a cutter is done with these buffalo, and they're a little bit bigger and quite a bit slower, I think they're ideal for the working cow horse people to school on. And if they are taught to stand in the middle of the pen with a horse riding around them, then they're going to be easier to circle later on in life. The key point here is that, again, we want that other horse directly across the pen from me so that these buffalo are encouraged to find the middle of the pen. Some buffalo, depending on the ranch they come from and how they're raised, will be wilder than others. These calves here come out of a large herd off of 2 ranches. They run together. The ranches are about 300,000 acres, and I think there's about 3,000 mother cows of buffalo there, buffalo cows. And so these are calves that are pretty wild. They're not used to confinement. You can see they're starting to relax around the horses, and we're going to press them a little bit more as we go here. And I can't say it enough, the most important thing in the breaking process on buffalo calves is to get them to look at the horse. And we'll cover that clear through the breaking process, how we quit them, how we work them. Everything's to encourage them to look at the horse. A point that I was making earlier was that if you teach a buffalo to do the right thing the first time, then they're easy to work with from then on. If you teach them the wrong thing the first time, then you have a habit to break. And these animals they've got a memory like a vice, and I feel that they are very smart. And once they learn a bad habit, it's there, and it's something you have to deal with. You know, a buffalo is a nervous buffalo when their tail is up. You can see these calves' tails are coming down. One thing I look for in my buffalo calves is a broad forehead. In a lot of respects, you'd treat new buffalo calves like you would treat a new fresh pen of cattle. The more you settle them, the better they do for you, if they're good cattle. I think one of the advantages of taking a little extra time with your buffalo calves at this point is that if you take the time to break them and introduce them to horses properly, they're going to last you a year to 2 years, where if you do not take the time to break these calves, you might not be as happy with them, and they might only last you 6-8 months. Worst case scenario, it's still better than cattle. I'll make this point through the video quite a bit, but I do not claim or mean to tell anybody that these are a complete replacement for cattle. They are not. These are the best alternative to cattle in a training, as a training aid. We work on pattern, position, mechanics with these buffalo. When you want to cut, you cut on cattle. I don't feel that a horse can necessarily be finished on buffalo exclusively, but I'd rather finish them on buffalo than bad cattle. Okay, let's start galloping. It's important that you also gallop around them so that when you speed up with your horses, they stay relaxed even when the horses are moving. You see how them calves started to kind of bounce off there a little bit. Some bunches of buffalo calves will really start to scatter like quail right now in this situation with the horses galloping around them. And if they do, you just back right back off to a walk and keep going around them until they find the middle of that pen again, and then when they do, you start galloping again after they're relaxed. Oh, okay, stop. Now see that? This is what we want. We want them to be frightened a little bit. Now go the other direction. And then we'll just kind of let them get over that and we'll go the other way. Oh. Okay, now this is acceptable to me. I'm seeing that these calves are not scared, they're not running around, they're settled in the middle of the pen. And at this point, I'm just going to have my wife open that gate where they came from. I'm not going to push these calves out of the arena. I'm going to let them wander out of this arena. Maybe just walk back up the wall. When I first get a load of buffalo calves in, I'll open the gate or I'll let them spend a night or two in the arena so that they get their bearings in the working pen. They're comfortable with the pen, then they can learn to be comfortable with the horses. Again, on different bunches of calves, this may take longer. I've had it take as long as a half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour in here until they relax. If you go to chasing your buffalo around a lot, forcing them through gates, then you've got a buffalo that's looking for a way out of the pen, a little too strong for my liking. And if a group of calves, if I'm in a hurry and a group of calves is going to take a lot of time finding their way out of the pen, I'll go do something else. I'll just open the gate and I'll leave the arena and I'll go find something else to do until they just kind of wander out. Okay, now that's the first day for that bunch of calves. I'm not going to do anything else with them today. And I may not do anything but that depending on how wild they are for the next couple of days. This bunch, the way they settle down in here, I'll start working them tomorrow. But I'll darn sure let them sleep on that. Okay, we're going to sort one of these buffalo calves off, and I'm going to show you a couple of tricks on handling them. E.D. Edwards, the manager of the Armandaris, which is one of the Turner ranches, taught me a really good sorting trick with them. He claims you can sort any buffalo, however big it is, just with your hand. And he's very big on using body English. You use one side of your pen to spin them and the other side of your pen's release. And I'll show you how you just step down to them with your hand. Just stick that hand out there and they'll stop. When things get a little too wild, just step out of the pen for a minute, let them think. Now, another point I want to make in sorting these, you notice how those buffalo, when I backed up, they stopped. Put your hand out, they come to you, put that hand out and back up a step. And that's what will stop a buffalo. After you've had these calves a little while, worked with them, this is a bunch we started They're not broke, but they're started. You can get in there horseback with them and get them sorted out pretty easy. See how much easier they are to put back in the pen once they've been in and out of it a couple of times. I just put them in this pen today, so they're not too used to it yet. Okay, I'm going to start to approach this calf to work it. Now my helper in the arena, which is my wife, is going to wait for instruction from me to break any bad habits that the buffalo may exhibit that I don't want them to get the idea of. And I'm just going to walk. I like to use either a turnback horse or an older horse that's been shown a bunch in this drill, because when they're right off the bat fresh, they're a little bit too quick and wild for like say a 3 or 4 year old that's trying to finish, or the 2-year-olds on the right buffalo. I don't mind using them to break the buffalo, but I like to use a horse that can handle a little bit of pressure. I prefer to break them one-on-one around the rail. Okay, Rhonda, come down and stand at that fence. The reason I like to break them one-on-one is they learn to look at a horse this way, and then I'll take them out of the herd. This little guy's going to come to me right off the bat. He's going to be an easy one. It's very important that when you're breaking them that you jump out and stop the buffalo. Okay, now on my older horse, I'm just going to take this opportunity and work on some things I want to work on. Okay, what you're seeing this buffalo do right now is what I call wall weaving. He's going back and forth, and I'm going to ask Rhonda to come break that up. I don't want him to ever get the idea of that. And just have your helper run right into him and break that routine. Right here, you don't want to get too close to him at first. Stay a little bit away from him. This is going to happen once in a while. They'll run into the wire, but after the first day, they'll quit doing that. They've just got to gallop it out. When they want to run like that, blind, just let them run. Just work on your horse's rate. Now what I'm waiting for is for this calf to start looking at my horse and relaxing. It's not really seeing my horse yet. starting to see my horse. Right there's where I'm going to quit this calf because he stopped and looked at my horse. That's going to stick with this calf into tomorrow when I'll start really working him. It may take him another day like that, and if it does, that's okay. Now again, just like the rest of the calves, I'm not going to hurry him out of the arena. I'm just going to open this gate. If the rest of them come out, that's okay. I ain't going to lose them. Just let him find his way. The biggest trouble people get into, I think, working buffalo is they try to make them do things. You just kind of let them figure their way out, and they last a lot longer, and you end up with a lot better animal to work. One thing you do want to do though is if they come to you across the pen, get right out there and get them stopped so that they are used to being stopped by a horse. You know, on the first day, if they're running blind, I just let them gallop it out. I let them find the horse. Then I make them find the horse from then on. These calves will just, you'll notice through the day here, they'll get smarter and smarter about the gait. I don't want them running back into the pen. I want them to just kind of wander back to the pen. See, they really don't know where home is yet. I'm going to encourage, but I'm not going to force. You know, they're going to find out it's safe in there. And that's where they're going to want to go. Hurry up and get the gate. I think the biggest thing we could have showed you right there is we could have handled that situation two different ways. We could have either really chased them around and jammed them around and made them go in that pen, or we kind of worked with them a little bit until they figured out the program, where the safety was. And the way we did it's going to make for some buffalo that stay more relaxed. Therefore, they're going to look at your horse more and give you more training opportunities. We're going to start in on this other calf, and they all break just a little bit different. They got different patterns you need to be aware of, and you just try to keep the negatives from developing. And we're going to just walk up this calf and see what he wants to do. You're just not going to get a whole lot of good out of them the first time you bring them into the pen, but if you take your time now, you're going to get a lot of good out of them later. I just stay a long ways away from them at first. The second day they're ready for more pressure. You notice I've positioned my help horse at the gate where I think he's going to probably want to hang around and get back with his buddies. So in order to prevent that, I'm going to encourage him away from that gate. And it's not a getting ready for a show kind of a school on this horse, but I'm still getting some stuff done on him. This calf's just now starting to look at the horse a little bit. I want to just And that calf stops, I'm going to let him stop and look at my horse a little bit. I just stay a long ways away from them at first. The second day they're ready for more pressure. Now you notice this calf's tongue is starting to hang out. Don't worry about it. That's the way they cool off. A cow is going to get sick if this happens, but a buffalo won't. I always tell people when their tongue hangs out, you got about 30 minutes left to work on. If you see them start to stagger or show signs of heat or fatigue, then you want to quit. Let them go back to water. Okay, he's starting to work that wall awful hard, so I'm going to try to kind of sneak around and let him break this pattern. Come down in here, break that pattern. So, if you teach these calves that to allow you to break their pattern, they learn to respect the horse more. Right there, he didn't really stop for the horse, but he kind of stopped for the horse. I'm not going to really stop him with this horse until he's looking at my horse a little bit more. And he's just got to gallop this out. All you're after in this first initiation is for them to slow down and look at the horse. Okay, I'm not forcing, I'm not pressing, I'm just staying kind of with him. Wait until this calf kind of wears down and looks at my horse. Some people start them out of a herd of cattle. I don't prefer that as much as this because I think I give the calf more of a chance to learn to break down in front of the horse and look at him. Calf's starting to come to the horse a little bit. There it is. Calf's tired. He's just going to sit there and look at this horse. He may start galloping again, and if he does, we'll wait until he's sure about stopping and looking at this horse. Okay, open the gate. Easy, easy. He's looking right at my horse. This is what I'm looking for when I break a buffalo calf. And I didn't do it by chasing him around and pressing him hard. I did it by allowing him to come to the horse and let him gallop it out. Anybody that handles buffalo for a living on the big ranches will tell you you got to work with them to handle them. And I think that's a really good point to make here. This calf yesterday did a lot of running. We'll see if he's a little more stoppable today. Got quite a bit more stop and weight to him today. This is going to be valuable later on when we go to work him out of the herd. Oh. See, he's honoring the horse and looking back. Oh. I'm getting a really nice little school out of this little 3-year-old here. You just you find the buffalo's pattern and you start working with them a little bit to your best advantage. This buffalo's wanting to work a flat pattern and stop and look at the horse every time. I'm just going to let it. This animal is acting totally different than it did yesterday. I positioned my help in the spot that I think that this buffalo is going to want to go to and look away from the horse. And that will change. I mean, and the reason it's important to have another horse in here with you is so that you can prevent that from getting started and encourage the best behavior out of the buffalo as possible. This is what I like about my breaking technique is this buffalo on 90% of his turns is looking at the horse and turning into the horse. Okay, I'm going to quit this buffalo right here. It's doing everything that I want this buffalo to do in the future as being a good buffalo, so I'm going to let it sleep on that. And I got a good work out of my colt, too. This buffalo was a rascal to break yesterday. We're going to see how he acts today, and this may be an example, we don't know until we get into it, of one that's going to take more than 2 days to break. Stand right there. See, now I've positioned my help right at the spot where the buffalo was the least productive yesterday. I'm kind of teaching this buffalo to honor a horse a little bit. Again, he's not breaking down real good, but this may be one of my better animals when he's broke. Might have a lot of go to him. I'm just going to take the colt and just kind of do a little rating and stopping and low pressure type of work, but get my buffalo broke. I'm going to stay back far enough where there's not a lot of pressure on the buffalo or the colt. Right there, I wanted to break that routine on that buffalo. He's been wanting to run up that wall real blind. But I'm going to make sure and release him. He's still nervous. I need this buffalo to settle down and look at a horse. Hey, hey, hey. You got to think ahead of him just a little bit. Just like you do on cattle. I'm going to turn that negative of him running up that wall into a positive a little bit. This buffalo is going to want to turn into the horse because of that bad habit that he's born with over there. This one got transmission problems. He's stuck in road gear. I'm going to just kind of try to let him settle down and stop. Now he's going to run up this wall if I don't see. I got to stop him. There. If you get a tough one to break, you just need to make sure and release them a lot. It's still in there in certain places, wherever it fits for your horse and your pen, you got to get him stopped. He's got a little bit more look to him today, not a lot, but a little bit. If I'd have tried to stop him real hard yesterday, I think I'd have just caused more problems. There, I'm going to quit right here. And I'm going to leave this arena. Let's go. I'm just going to leave that buffalo in there by himself now until he relaxes. But he finally broke down and came to me. What's behind you? Got it? Now I think I'm really glad that I had a buffalo that's this hard to break, because this may happen. You may have this to deal with your calves. The best way to get by a calf like this and turn it into a good one is to get creative with your program and get that buffalo broke to come to your horse and relax in the arena. Remember, the reason that this buffalo will not quit moving is it's nervous about being in the arena by itself, away from the herd. And so the first step is to break that, to let him know that nothing's going to hurt him in here, that this is a place where we come to play a game in here. And by the way that buffalo started coming to me there, it's going to take me about 2 more times of working him. And I may work him tomorrow, I may give him tomorrow off if he looks real healthy, like this is not causing a health problem with this buffalo. Then I'll keep working him every day until he breaks down and finds a pattern. And then I'll give him some rest time. Not very much, just like 2 or 3 days. And then this is a buffalo that needs to be worked as much as you can work him once he breaks down. But this kind of buffalo here, though they're more trouble to break, is the kind that's going to last longer too. If you don't press them too hard and mess them up. And I could have done 1 or 2 things with this calf. I could have either just really worked him into the ground and made him stop for me, made him do what I wanted him to do, or I could do what I did, which was let him find himself in this pen and find the horse. That way makes him a good buffalo to work. The other way is going to make him into what I call a wall weaver. He's just going to turn away from the horse every time. He's going to have his nose pressed up against the wall, and you won't get any good schools out of him because there will never be any feel from that buffalo. But But you can see him start to relax out there now. And, you know, that tongue hanging out of his head, you know, it's obviously not desirable, but it's not really scary on these buffalo calves. He's just cooling himself off. They pant like a dog. And he'll relax, and then he'll lay down, and I'll let him back in his little feed pen in there. And he'll be a better buffalo tomorrow. You can see he was a lot of trouble yesterday, and today he's a lot better than he was yesterday. And he'll just progressively get better as we break him. This little calf I've worked before. He came in, was real hooky, really mad. The way I got him over that is I just dropped away with my horse and let him release and go somewhere else. I did that a couple of times with him, and then I put him up just in case he had a fever or something. A lot of times if one hooks, they just don't feel good. I've only had 2 hooky buffalo calves. This is one of them. The other one was one that I bought for very little money. He was, I thought, a good deal on my first bunch of buffalo, but he'd been sick and lame in one foot, and he never did work for me with horses. So you want to steer away from them calves that have been lame or sick. They're just not going to work for you. You want good, healthy calves. You know, this buffalo's not wanting to hook anymore. So I'm just going to leave him just like that and put him up. And I'm going to just leave him alone for about a week, 10 days. And this is right where I want one of them to start, because we start working them flat or out of a herd of cattle, and they'll do this in front of the cutting horse and take a little pushing from the other side and give you the school you want. What we're going to show you right now is I'm going to give a lesson to this non-pro on this buffalo that we've worked about. Say we've worked this buffalo maybe 8 times, and after the first time we worked it, we got good schooling out of it. And she's going to just work it flat across the pen as if she was working a cow out of the herd. And one point I'll make, when you start working them flat, you can have too many horses in the arena. You should never have more than 1 horse out here on top. You get a lot more chance to cover and stop, and the buffalo will wait and look at your horse and work it a little bit if there's not as many horses out here on top. See, she got her buffalo covered and she stopped her horse. Buffalo broke off, honored the horse. And this right here, this behavior out of this calf is the result of letting them gallop it out and stop and look at the horse. Now we have time to let this horse settle, look. You know, she had to hustle across that pen and get her cow stopped, but she can relax right now and wait for the next deal. And the buffalo will just keep treating her like this all day long. See, the buffalo's coming to the horse right there. That's very important. So many buffalo that are broke wrong turn away from the horse. Now, to me, that's a very good training opportunity, what just happened there. And this buffalo will do this for a year for you. When you're turning back on these little calves, you don't have to do anything but step to them with your horse. They're watching every horse in the arena. That's why you can have too many horses in the pen. And if you start out, if you got a bunch of friends over and you're working buffalo or got lots of help and you realize that you have too many horses out here on top, then just send them down to the corner. As they get older and more broke, they'll tolerate more than one turnback horse. Amy's getting a lot of good practice getting across that pen and covering her cow, holding her line, This is something that's real important for the non-pro. And it will stick with this lesson as long as it takes on one buffalo, as long as the horse can handle it. But the buffalo won't let us down. It will just keep on doing the right thing. See, as much time as we've spent on this buffalo right now, by now a cow would be letting us down. Hey, 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 hey. For the non-pro that may buy buffalo to use at home, I strongly recommend that you stay in close contact with your trainer clear through your program so that you're using the buffalo correctly and you're working your horse properly on the buffalo. You're sticking to pattern. Whatever your trainer suggests that you should do with your horse on the buffalo is what I would suggest that you do. Doing good, Amy. Just kind of let her dial in and find a place to quit her. Hey, get over there, get over there. Up, good. Hey, hey. That's a good spot to quit, Amy. Yeah. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut these buffalo out of a straight herd of buffalo. Now this is a very bad idea on fresh buffalo. It's something that you only can do on broke buffalo. And we've had these heifers around for 14 months and we work them really hard. And I'd say after you have them between 6 and 8 months, you'll know when it's time to go ahead and start thinking about working them out of a straight herd. Usually the big thing I look for in them is when I've gone through the whole herd and got them all broke down to the point where they're starting to slow down in the one-on-one work and do a lot of stopping on their own and need an encouragement to move, then they're usually ready to work out of a straight herd. Now, making your cut out of a straight herd of buffalo is different than making a cut out of a herd of cattle. This is a drill. I don't recommend that you try to finish a horse on buffalo. They need the experience of having the cattle settle in front of them and kind of mill around, but this is a great way to take some pressure off of a horse that you're trying to finish, and they still are out of the herd. A lot of position time, wait, come back, find your cow. Gives the horses a lot of confidence when they don't have all the extra pressure that a cow can give them, but they still get a chance to cut. Can work on little details. Like this colt, he was a little late getting over there, so I hustled him over there a little bit. I want him to wait right here, then cow. And that buffalo is allowing me to do that. He's a little sharper that time. Want him to wait. Cow. And the buffalo, the way they release him and don't supply a constant amount of pressure on the horse, give him a chance to develop confidence in his pattern out of a herd situation. Now, if I want to stand here all day long, you can see that buffalo made some nice crisp moves. Chances are that buffalo is going to stay right there. And this is a real valuable time for a horse out of a herd because they learn to shut off when they stop. Often we'll work one buffalo out of a herd of cattle. This is for schooling a horse in their herd work. A lot of times in our tuning processes at home, we'll work out of the herd because the horse needs to be out of the herd. That's what they're going to do when they go to town. But our work on our cattle that we have at home tends to be a little too hard, too high pressure for the horses when the cattle continuously try to get back to the herd. And when we put one buffalo out of a herd of cattle, they fall into a two-dimensional pattern that allows us to train or school or tune the horse on what's really important to us, which is stopping and rating that cow and falling into pattern across that pen. And they can become more relaxed in that pattern setting mode on the buffalo than they can on the cattle. That's because the buffalo do not try to get back to the herd of cattle. They don't want to be with the cattle. At the same time, we are in a herd work situation. We've got a herd of cattle behind us. As far as the horse is concerned, this is just a fuzzy cow with a bad back, and he just thinks it's another different looking kind of cow, and he goes on and works with no pressure. If you have a horse that exhibits a little apprehensiveness toward the buffalo, some horses even will act a little bit afraid, although it's a small percentage of the horses. My advice to you is to work them out of a herd of cattle on one buffalo. Yeah, you've got to train these buffalo to be by themselves like this one. She's always been a little bit quieter than the others. She's one of the first ones I could put in the trap. Sometimes it's smart to put a flake alfalfa in there or something to help them relax in there. Working buffalo off a trap trains the buffalo to handle the pressure of being in a herd situation in that arena. It trains them to work a horse flatly across the pen, even though they can see their herd mates behind them, but yet they can never get to them through the trap gate. And just as valuable, the horse never loses the buffalo, so that later you can take a straight herd of buffalo after they're broke in that arena, and they're used to those surroundings, that type of an environment, and they will settle down and work your horse properly out of a straight herd of buffalo. I suggest that when you work off an open gate that you be pretty sparing about this little drill. I think you should be very conscious of judging your horse's tolerance to the pressure of this drill. What it does for the buffalo is it puts a third dimension on the buffalo. They know that gate is open. They know that their buddies, the rest of the herd, is back in the buffalo, and they will come to the horse in an effort to get by the horse back to the herd. One complaint I have heard about buffalo is that they tend to be a little two-dimensional, more so than we need to train a cutting horse. I've found ways to put that third dimension on the buffalo so that I get my two-dimensional pattern setting for a cutting horse along with a little third dimension, but yet they will fall back to their two-dimensional pattern, giving me a chance to relax the horse and quit the horse as quiet in their work as we started. A cutting horse has to deal with the pressure of a cow coming down to it, trying to achieve reunion with the herd. That's what a cutting horse's job is to block that from happening. So I want my buffalo to simulate that as often as possible, but yet end up releasing the horse back to a pattern setting mode. I do not recommend this drill more than once or twice in a long period of time. Jim Simpson learned really quick and has become very handy at judging the space bubble of a buffalo and knowing how to correctly change speeds on his buffalo when he's working cow horses. The value in the buffalo to a working cow horse man is definitely the quality of longevity in the buffalo. These buffalo will go up and down the fence literally all day long. Fence work for a working cow horse, they need as much practice as they can rating their animal.
The first horse was a horse that I've shown. He's a 4-year-old horse. I'll be a cowboy. And he's shown he's one of the leading junior cow horses in the nation this year. He started, we've worked him some on cattle on the road, but when we're home, we work buffalo all the time with him. He was started on buffalo as when he was a 2-year-old. In fact, until into his 3-year-old year, he never worked any cattle. He worked all buffalo. The buffalo, number one, is they last a long time. You can, with a cow, a lot of times, as soon as you start to work them with your horse, they work a little bit, and then the cow's either tired, and then they get mad really quick, and they either want to just stop and not work, or they want to start looking for a way out. Where the buffalo, if you want to, you can work him for 15 minutes or a half hour or whatever, and do whatever you want. The buffalo will run around the pen. They don't run really fast. They don't get mad like a cow. They'll run, and as soon as you release pressure on them, they'll stop. And the horse gets very confident about stopping with them, turning into them. They don't run under your horse the way a cow does, and they don't get mad and just put their head against the fence and look for a way out. Well, the confidence factor comes in when you're working a horse on cattle. As soon as the cow starts to get tired or used up, they'll try to go under your horse, or they turn their back on you and try to get out of the pen. And with the buffalo will stay and work. If you want something happen a little faster, you just step a little closer to him. If you want it to slow down, you just move a little away from him. And the horse's confidence gets so high because he thinks he can make this buffalo do and they can. If they can step right down to him, they know if they just move a little bit away. You'll see it on the younger horse we worked on the tape. As soon as it found out it could just move a little bit away from the buffalo, and it'd slow right down and got all the turns that it wanted. And as you watch the tape, you'll see this horse confidence get higher and higher. Its turns were better, its head got lower, and I think it's the way they're started. It definitely makes them better. But if I was going to buy a buffalo, I'd buy a buffalo that Tim had broke in, because you know what you're going to get. And the way he works today, he'll work that way tomorrow, and he'll work that way next week, and he'll work that way next month. When you put a buffalo in the pen, like the buffalo at Tim's where I know him, when that buffalo walks in, I know what he's going to do before he does it. You just know the way this buffalo is going to work. And you can just put the buffalo that fits that horse or what you want to do with them. You can put that buffalo in the pen and you know what he's going to do. Or with a cow, you don't know from day to day. They'll really change. You have a few days and then they're used up. If you work cattle very long, they're going to get right again your horse and duck under their neck. We've never had a buffalo that would try to run under your horse. Some of them will come a little closer and work a little harder than others, but we never had one that would try to run under a horse or hurt him in any way. If I had a choice, if I had the cattle and the buffalo, I'd work the buffalo.
Another important thing to remember about buffalo is it's not a good idea to have buffalo in with or in close proximity to sheep. There is a problem called malignant catarrhal fever that is a big deal. Buffalo are very susceptible to it. There's very little chance of saving one. If you do try to save one, it's usually at great expense. Pretty much when they have MCF, malignant catarrhal fever, they're dead. And sheep are known carriers of this disease. I've really enjoyed sharing my experience with buffalo with you and using them on horses. Get really creative with these animals, use common sense and make them work for you. Just be good to these buffalo and they'll be good to you.